Welcome to Austin. The US Grand Prix is back, and if you love spectacle, you're in for a treat. Teams turning up with special liveries and race suits that look more like show outfits. From Mercedes-themed suits to Williams throwback paint, there's plenty to admire, but the atmosphere doesn't change the stakes. This weekend is forecast to be hot, and the FIA has declared a heat hazard, a single variable that can flip strategy, tyre life, and setup decisions. Watch for brake duct changes, unusual brake smoke, and whether drivers use cooling vests early on. Those small signs often foreshadow bigger problems. Later, I'll break down why Ferrari's Singapore brake struggles still matter in Austin, and what George Russell's new contract chatter could mean for Mercedes' transfer market. So don't go anywhere. Quick favour, subscribe and hit the bell. We're aiming for 2,000 subscribers, and your click really helps. If you like this kind of breakdown, tap the like button. Now tell me in the comments. Do you like these special liveries this weekend? Yes or no? Short answers. Welcome. One word is fine. Then explain if you want. Vote and I'll read the best replies in the next video. Now, let's get into what really matters for the race. The heat hazard, and how it could reshape the entire weekend. This weekend, the weather has quietly become the story you can't ignore. The FIA has officially declared a heat hazard for the US Grand Prix at COTA, because forecasts predict the heat index will top the 33 Vermeuden's threshold during the sprint or the race, which triggers a specific set of options teams and drivers must follow. What that actually means on race day is straightforward but crucial. The rules allow drivers to wear a liquid-cooled driver cooling vest to help manage cockpit temperatures. Or if a driver chooses not to wear the vest, the car must carry the equivalent ballast so nobody gains a weight advantage. Don't underestimate how much of a difference this makes. In Singapore, we saw firsthand how extreme heat and humidity turn a race into a survival test. Cockpit temps can feel like 50 degrees to drivers, sweat becomes constant, and decision-making at the limit gets tougher by the hour. The cooling vests circulate fluid around the torso and can help in the early, worst laps. But some drivers reported they warm up quickly and offer only temporary relief. Others said the vest made a real difference, particularly during the first stint. That mixed feedback is why the measure remains voluntary for now, even though the hardware must be fitted to every car when a heat hazard is declared. From a team perspective, the heat hazard forces a host of tactical calls. Brake duct sizes, brake cooling strategies, and suspension setup choices suddenly have to balance raw lap time with thermal protection. Tyre degradation curves change when track temperatures spike, and you'll see engineers feeding drivers very specific lift and coast windows or advising earlier pit stops if brakes or tyres show worrying trends. Singapore offered a stark example. Teams that couldn't manage brake temperatures had to drive defensively for long stretches. And that's exactly the kind of weekend Ferrari wants to avoid repeating in Austin. As a viewer, this weekend gives you a running checklist to watch for. Who chooses the vest? Which cars add that ballast? Signs of excess brake dust or smoke? And whether any driver radio indicates rising temperatures or altered braking points. Quick engagement for you. In the comments, type vest if you'd let the driver wear the cooling vest, or type ballast if you prefer they skip it and accept the extra weight. I'll call out the best replies in the next video. And if you're enjoying these technical deep dives, a like helps the channel hit our 2,000 subscriber goal and means I can keep making breakdowns like this. Ferrari fans, this is where things get interesting. Because that FIA heat hazard we just talked about, it could expose the exact same weakness Ferrari faced in Singapore: brake overheating. Remember how both Leclerc and Sainz complained about fading pedal feel mid-race back then? That wasn't a one-off issue. Singapore's stop-start layout, heavy braking zones, and humid conditions overloaded the SF24's cooling system. And despite upgrades since, Austin could trigger the same red flag for Ferrari's engineers. Here's why. COTA mixes long straights with big braking points, turn 1 and the end of the back. Straight are brutal. Combine that with Texas heat and you get a perfect storm for brake wear. Ferrari runs one of the most compact brake duct designs on the grid to maximize aerodynamic efficiency, but that sacrifices raw cooling. On a normal weekend, it's manageable. Under heat hazard rules? Risky. If they open up the ducts to keep brakes alive, they'll lose straight line speed, a major weakness against Red Bull and McLaren. It's a setup nightmare. That's why Ferrari's garage is split, internally. One side argues to prioritize tyre life and cooling, even if it costs top-end speed. The other side, mainly the aero department, believes sacrificing drag reduction will kill qualifying pace. Sources suggest Ferrari might test two slightly different setups in free practice. One car more open for cooling, the other more closed for lap time. Watch how they handle FP2. If you see Leclerc or Sainz running cooling tests, that's your clue. Now here's a thought for you. Should Ferrari play it safe and cool the car, or gamble on qualifying speed and risk brake fade later? Drop your vote in the comments. Safe or gamble? And while you're at it, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every click helps us reach our goal of 2,000 subscribers and keeps these updates coming straight to you. Up next, we'll talk about Mercedes. Because while Ferrari fights the heat, Toto Wolff is fighting rumours about George Russell's new deal and what it could mean for Mercedes' 2026 driver, a lineup. Stay with me. Now let's turn our attention to Mercedes. Because while the rest of the grid is sweating over setups, the Silver Arrows are making headlines for something completely different: George Russell's contract situation. Rumours have been flying that Mercedes is preparing to extend Russell's deal before the 2026 regulation changes. And that move could tell us a lot about their long-term vision, especially with Lewis Hamilton now confirmed to leave for Ferrari next season. Let's unpack what's happening. Russell's current contract already runs through 2025, but multiple paddock insiders claim Toto Wolff wants to lock him in early for stability heading into the new engine era. Mercedes sees George as the cornerstone of their rebuild: young, analytical, and extremely adaptable to changing car concepts. But there's another layer here. Extending him early sends a very clear message to any potential 2026 recruits, namely to Max Verstappen or even Kimi Antonelli, that Mercedes won't wait around forever. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Wait, Verstappen to Mercedes? Really? Well, it's not as crazy as it sounds. Red Bull's internal drama earlier this year and Toto's long-standing interest in Max have kept that door slightly open. If Verstappen ever decided to leave, Mercedes would need a teammate who can handle his pace and pressure. And Wolff already trusts Russell to be that guy. That's exactly why this early extension is more than just paperwork. It's Mercedes planting its flag for the future. Still, not everyone in the paddock is convinced. Some say George hasn't proven he can be the clear team leader yet, pointing to his inconsistency in tight races and a few costly mistakes under pressure. Others argue he's been the one carrying Mercedes through their roughest era since 2014. And with Hamilton leaving, Russell will either rise as the new face of Mercedes, or the team might look to pair him with a surprise signing to keep the balance. Right. Here's where I want your input. Who do you think should partner George Russell in 2026? Drop your pick in the comments. Verstappen, Antonelli, or someone else entirely. Let's see which name gets the most votes. And if you're enjoying this breakdown, subscribe and enable notifications. We're so close to 2,000 subscribers, and your support keeps the F1 talk flowing every week. Next up, we'll wrap things up by looking at what this heat hazard, Ferrari's dilemma, and Mercedes' future all mean for the race itself, and who might come out on top in Austin. Alright, let's bring it all together. The heat, the setups, and the strategy chaos that's brewing for the US Grand Prix at COTA. Because when you step back and connect all the dots, you start to see how this weekend could produce one of those unpredictable races that defines the second half of the season. Let's start with the obvious. The heat hazard will test every team differently. Red Bull has historically thrived in hotter conditions, but even they aren't immune to brake and tyre wear. And Max Verstappen's aggressive driving style tends to push both to the limit. That's why his engineers will be laser focused on balancing short-term qualifying pace with long-term tyre protection. If they get that wrong, McLaren and Ferrari could be right there to capitalise. Ferrari, as we discussed earlier, faces a critical setup decision. If they go conservative and open up the car for more cooling, they'll likely sacrifice that straight-line punch they need for overtakes. If they gamble and go tighter, overheating could destroy their race pace. Either way, they're walking a knife's edge. Keep an eye on Leclerc's onboard after lap 10. That's usually when Ferrari's brakes start showing early signs of fatigue under heavy loads. Then there's Mercedes. They might not be in the title hunt right now, but with Hamilton heading to Ferrari and Russell possibly signing that extension, this weekend is a statement opportunity. The car's been inconsistent in hot weather, but Austin's smoother surface could help them regain some confidence. Don't be surprised if Russell sneaks onto the podium, especially if the top teams stumble in the heat. And McLaren, they've become the silent assassins lately. The car handles high temperatures better than most expect, and Piastri's sprint pace has been top tier. If the race turns into a tyre management contest, McLaren could be the dark horse here. But the real winner this weekend might just be the fans. Between the heat hazard, strategic gambles, and all the off-track contract drama, this Grand Prix has every ingredient for a wild one. So, here's my question for you. Who's your pick to win in Austin? Drop it below. Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, or maybe a surprise like Russell? Let's make it a mini poll in the comments and see which driver the community believes can conquer the Texas heat. And hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this full breakdown, take a second to subscribe and enable the notification bell. Your subscription really helps us grow and reach our goal of 2,000 subscribers. Every click keeps this channel going strong, bringing you the latest F1 insights week after week. Thanks for watching Fast News F1, and I'll see you right after the race for our full reaction and analysis from Austin. Stay cool out there. The Texas heat is about to make things very interesting.